John, you were behind the mic this weekend for Fisher versus Norwich. Fisher did blow out Norwich University 48-2 with stellar defense and stellar offense. In your take, how has the Fisher season so far progressed?
You know, it's gone to plan, except for the one bump on the road against Hartwick. I mean, if you look at the schedule this year, you think, okay, maybe there'd be a trouble when you get to Ithaca. We've never, we as in Fisher has never won at Butterfield Stadium. They got over that hump. But then they run into Hartwick with an outstanding quarterback, Division I transfer Jason Boltis, and they got surprised a little bit. Maybe came out a little flat in the first half and just didn't allow themselves enough time to really catch up. They had a chance to tie the game or win the game, depending on the way you look at it in the waning moments, but just weren't able to pull the game out, and Hartwick put together a better effort in 4 quarters than Fisher did in only 2 quarters in that second half.
That's right. Now, coming up this weekend, Springfield, it's Fisher versus Springfield, and one note to mention that Springfield was the only team to beat Fisher, not only beat them last year, but beat them at Growney Stadium, as Fisher was a great home team. As Fisher makes the long 6-hour trip down to Springfield, Massachusetts, and their Springfield's outstanding quarterback, Chris Sharp, how do you see this game's weekend playing out?
You know, I think, reverting back to last year, what happened there, Springfield was a relatively new team in the conference, and for that reason, I mean, I think Sharp kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, they knew he was a good athlete. He put up some pretty spectacular numbers up to that point where they played Fisher, but at the same time, Fisher had some key injuries in that game. Greg Pazinski, one of the captains last year, an outstanding interior defensive lineman, was missing, so they kept running the quick dive play to the fullback. They were picking up all kinds of yards. So if they couldn't stop that, then they had even more trouble stopping Chris Sharp around the edges. And another reason they had trouble with that is because the All-American Steve Stepnick was out in that first contest. So that's two players on your defense, one in the inside and one on the outside on the edges that you're missing, 2 of your best players at those spots. So that was the reason they really lost that game. Obviously, Sharp put up ridiculous numbers in that game. You know, I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns, even more maybe. I don't remember exactly, but it was absurd, especially considering Fisher was playing at home. 5 touchdowns it was, as we're being told now. So it was almost an NCAA record. 6 now, because I didn't see the thumb there. There was a thumb in the indication, but as it is, that was an outstanding performance. But the thing is now, Fisher's already beaten them. They met them once in regular season, played them in the playoffs in Springfield, which now, by the way, has a new surface. They had old school AstroTurf. They now have resurfaced that. As a side note, but they played them, they beat them, they got their good players back. Now Fisher's, they don't have any injuries in this coming week, any major injuries on the defensive front. So they're coming at him with a full squad. They've seen him before, they know what he can do, and they just know that they really have to stop his running game because he's not that big of a threat through the air.